Okay. Sorry if anyone is over on that other thing that I created. Still trying to figure out this live thing. Okay. I thought that I would have time to get ready starting this at 7, but I literally just walked in the door and I still have a hair mask in my hair right now, so I just threw this hat on so you guys can't see that. Oh, and I need to clean these, so I'll just take those off. Oh, and I need to get the iPad so I can see what you guys are saying. Okay, hopefully no one's here yet. So, for people who are watching in the future, because I'm assuming no one's here yet, I'm just going to start from the beginning. Actually, let's start with an intro. So this is going to be my paranormal experiences video. I wonder if the camera's close enough. Hopefully you guys can see me okay. Well, I'll be able to see that in a second. Oh, gotta take this jacket off, I got hot. Okay, so this is going to, I'm going to talk about my past lives that I can remember. I'm going to talk about my paranormal experiences. And then later on in the video, we'll talk about some like drug-induced experiences. And then I think that'll wrap it up. So I have grown out of seeing things that I can't explain. So that leads me to believe that I'm not schizophrenic. But totally feel free to believe whatever you like. You know, I don't expect everyone to believe me. I wouldn't. These things sound crazy, and if you haven't experienced them yourself, then I totally understand you not believing. That's totally fine. So I will just start from the beginning. Hi, Cinderella. Hi, Chris. Hi, Shelly. So I'll just start from the beginning. So the earliest memory that I have, well, so we'll start with the second earliest memory that I have, was me crawling around in my Aunt Mary's apartment, and someone left the sliding glass door open. And I have confirmed with my family that I was 1 year old when my Aunt Mary had this apartment and when this experience happened. But I remember crawling out onto my Aunt Mary's patio and sticking my head through the bars of her balcony. And I remember her scooping me up. That was when I was 1 year old. I have confirmed with my family. But before that, I remember everything being darkness, like just black, like you can't see anything. But I could see light. It was like just coming from one spot, I could see light, and everything else was darkness. And I was constantly like branching toward the light. And so that leads me to believe that I was some kind of plant. So I just thought that was a fun place to start with paranormal experiences. So that's why I believe in like reincarnation. Well, that's one of the reasons that I believe in reincarnation. But we'll get into lots more of those reasons. I totally believe in the paranormal, have had experiences on and off over the years. And Cinderella is fascinated with the paranormal. Hey, Lexi Days. So let's see, what's a good place to go to? So when I was a child, like when I lived in Spring Hill, my mom said that I had a poltergeist in the house in Spring Hill from the things that I told her that were going on. And Spring Hill is they had a famous battle there, if you're not aware. A lot of people were unalived there. So it's not surprising to me that there's a lot of paranormal activity. Even my sister, who's never seen anything else, said she saw a ghost bus in Spring Hill. But so the things that I experienced in Spring Hill, there was something trying to scare me in that house. Because one time I saw it as, and a lot of people are going to click away for this, and I totally understand, but it was like a cartoon witch with like a long green nose with a wart. It was something trying to scare me, I'm certain, because I was afraid of witches at that time. My only fears really at the time were like sharks and witches. Um, so I think it was something trying to scare me. But I saw a shadow, a strange shadow on my wall, and it looked like a witch. Uh, and then it like started moving, and I just closed my eyes because I was like, "Oh gosh, you're just scaring yourself. It's just dark, you know. You're just you have a vivid imagination, which my imagination. I don't believe this is my imagination because my imagination does not work like this. Um, but anyway, so this black figure that was like it looked like a witch hunched over on the ground, starts like crawling towards me, and I keep like closing my eyes and then opening to assuming that it's going to be gone, and then I'm just seeing like an amalgamation of shadows that kind of resemble a witch or whatever. But this thing keeps getting closer and closer to me, and I keep covering up my eyes, and then every time I look, it's closer, and then eventually I cover up my eyes, and when I open them again, this witch, this green witch with like a long nose and a wart on her nose, is directly in my face, and she says, "Boo!" And then she disappears, and I never saw her again. But I'm certain that was something trying to scare me because in that same house, in that same room, I had a lot of experiences. Like one night, I'm sure it was a dream. I've rationalized it as a dream, but I remember something picking me up by my hair and throwing me around the room. And the next day, my head was very sore. And I'm sure that was a dream, but I think it was related to the poltergeist. Because I don't believe that energy like that is that powerful to actually throw someone around the room. But I'm sure they had something to do with that nightmare. Because my head was very sore in the morning, like someone had thrown me around by my hair. Um, usually, usually my experience of ghosts has been, or have been, you like feel someone watching you when there's no one there. Like at my Nana's house, when I moved back in with her uh, years ago, when I moved back from Oklahoma City, I stayed with my Nana for like a year while I was saving money, and she was helping me save money. Um, I could always feel someone watching me in her shower, and my Aunt Jane said she always felt that too in that shower. She always felt someone watching her. Uh, but going back to Spring Hill, uh, let's see. Or, yeah, let's move over to Franklin, Tennessee, which is like right by Spring Hill. There was also a famous battle there. In Franklin, I saw who I believe to be my aunt, who was very brutally unalived, and I'm not going to get into that, but um, it was in a shop in Franklin, Tennessee in the summertime. It was, I'll tell the story and then I'll start reading your guys' comments. It was a shop in Franklin, Tennessee in the summertime. It was very hot, and I was looking out a window. It was not air conditioned. I was upstairs, and they had all these like antique clothes and hairbrushes and stuff, like women's accessories. And I was looking out a window. It was very warm, and then all of a sudden it got very cold, and I turned around, and I said this in my last live, but I saw a woman's face made out of light. It was her face and her shoulders, and she just looked at me for a few seconds, and then even though I got cold, like before I saw her, it was not a scary experience at all. It was a very lovely, pleasant experience. And I just saw her for a couple seconds, and then the light like kind of went into a wisp and went up out the roof. Um, and my Nana said that when we walked into that shop, she smelled Mary Ann. That's her sister. Um, she told me that years later when I was telling her this story about my ghost experience. So that was the most pleasant ghost experience I've ever had. Usually they're scary. That was the only one I've ever had that was not scary. Um, so, oh, let's read the comments and then I'll go into more stuff. One time I fell through a bed. Is that what you're saying, Chris? I know I went through it because there would have been no way for me to get to the middle of the bed without moving boxes that were in the way. It was trippy. My grandma saged me for a week. I 100% believe you. Thanks, Chris. Cinderella said, when we lived in Philadelphia, we had several paranormal experiences. Shadow figures, full body apparitions, boxes flying off shelves, doors unlocking. Yeah, so Cinderella, you've reminded me of when we lived in Alabama when I was a child. My parents told me that there was a man who would pace up and down the hallways at night, but I never saw him. Let's see, what else did you say? Shadow figures, full body apparition. Yeah, so the last paranormal experience that I had was in Dallas, and it was just a shadow going across a wall, but I was in a room with no light source. That was very creepy. And then I asked one of my neighbors if like anything weird had happened in that house, and she said that a man had died in that room that I saw the shadow in, and he lived there alone, so they didn't find him until his body was, people could smell him from very far away because they had pretty big yards. I lived on Marsh Lane Place when I lived in Dallas, and the yards were like at least 1 acre, I would say. So yeah, going back to Spring Hill, the ones that are my fault, me and my friend Nicole used to play Ouija board, and don't ever do that. Now it's weird, when I would play with Nicole, the planchette would just shoot around the board and spell out all kinds of crazy stuff, and her sister would come try to play with us, and it would never work. The planchette would just like stop moving. But whenever it was me and Nicole, it was absolutely terrifying. Why did it just get darker in here? Okay. I don't play Ouija boards anymore. I don't have one in my house. I will not bring one in my house for this reason. So, well, there's multiple stories, but I'll say the worst one at the very end. So, one time we were talking to this, whatever you're talking to on there, and Nicole said, "Can you do anything to prove that you're real?" And I was like, "Why would you do that?" And it said yes, and she said what, and then it didn't respond, and then a like water glass flew off. I don't remember if I'm combining different memories, but I think a water glass flew off a shelf that we were like not anywhere near, and then I think it was the same time we like sat there scared for a while, and then she yelped, and she said something stabbed her in the back, and I pulled up her shirt, the back of her shirt, to see what it was, and she was bleeding. It was like a pinprick, and when she pulled down her shirt, there was a needle hanging out of it, and I plucked the needle off of her shirt, and it was not like any needle I've ever seen. It didn't have an eye. It was bent in the middle. I don't know how I can describe that better than that, but it was like bent in the middle, and then the very point of it was twisted around in a circle onto itself so that it couldn't actually stab anything. So I don't know how it stabbed Nicole. She put it in a jewelry box, and it disappeared the next day. We never saw it again. And then the worst experience that I had, oh, if you've never played Ouija board, at first I thought Nicole was just pushing the planchette around and spelling out things, but then I asked it something about myself that Nicole didn't know, and it started spelling it out on the board. And I knocked the planchette off the board, but you're not supposed to do that. But that's what made me think like, oh, maybe, are we actually talking to some? I don't know what the deal is. I don't know what I believe about that, but there were enough weird things that happened that I don't think Nicole was just like punking me. Well, no. Well, there's this last story. There's no way Nicole could have done this. So one day we were talking to something, and you have to say goodbye when you're done talking to them. And it wouldn't say goodbye to us. We kept saying goodbye, we have to go. Nicole had something to do, I don't remember what it was, but it wouldn't say goodbye back to us, which they say like you're leaving the portal open if you don't close it by saying goodbye. Well, they have to say goodbye back to you. Um, so we didn't close it. It didn't say goodbye back to us. And Nicole was like, well, I have to go. So we just got up and went to leave. Well, I left my keys in the room and they were on the floor beside, I think it was my keys. I left something in the room on the floor beside a mirror on the ground. And when I reached down to pick them up, and I was by myself at this point, Nicole had already gone like outside. And I reached down to pick up whatever it was that I had forgotten, and something reached at me from the other side of the mirror. Like she was in the mirror, but she was reaching at me, and it looked like a straight up, like, I forget what they call Samara from The Ring. It was like a girl with like long black dripping wet hair, which I always wonder, like, did other people see that too? Because I've seen that figure in so many movies. And also I wonder, because of the witch thing, I'm like, was it just something trying to scare me and that's something it could pull that I was afraid of? Or like, is this an actual thing? I don't know. But it was very scary. It was a dripping, rotting, unalived girl reaching at me through the mirror. The scariest, honestly, the scariest thing I've ever seen. And so I made Nicole come back up and wait until it said goodbye to us, and it eventually said goodbye. And I have never played a Ouija board since then, and I will never play a Ouija board again because of that experience. Let's see, Shelley said, my mom and I lived in an old carriage house when I was a kid, and there were cold spots, shadow figures, and things being moved or missing. Yeah, oh yeah. So this is not my experience, but my mom, when she was a child, she had some kind of weird poltergeist watching her. She said one time she saw it in her window and it was a green face just staring at her in the middle of the daytime. And she said it was very scary and not a comforting feeling. But my mom's mother was very abusive from the stories that I've heard. I'm hesitating because I'm like, will she see this video? But yeah, my mom's mother was very abusive toward my mom and her sisters. That's not my business to tell, so I won't say anything more about that. But this ghost would like knock dishes out of the cabinet in the kitchen and break them to get my mom and her sisters in trouble. But yeah, let's go back to my stories, because I think first-person stories are, I don't know. I guess no stories like this are credible, but I don't know. Hopefully you guys know what I'm trying to say. I thought this would be a good video to do live so you guys could ask me questions, because I know this stuff is unbelievable. Let's see. Aside from just ghosts, and I've told all these stories, but again, I just thought it'd be a fun thing to do live. Aside from ghosts, one time I saw a shooting star that, well, I thought it was a shooting star. I thought it was my first shooting star. I was making a wish on it, and then it stopped in the middle of the sky. And then I tried to point it out to my friend David, who was working with me at UT Medical at the time. It was early in the morning. So I see what I think is a shooting star. It stops dead in the sky, and then I see it zip over the horizon at a 90-degree angle from the direction it had been traveling, which I don't think shooting stars can stop and then change direction. But that was a fascinating thing to see. So I think that was a spaceship, and my Nana and my Aunt Jane have both say that they've seen aliens and spaceships. To go into my Nana and my Aunt Jane's story, they said they saw an alien sitting on a telephone wire outside of their house when they were little. They said they were woken up by a bright light outside their window, and they both went and looked, and there was a little gray man with big eyes and slits for a nose and a slit for a mouth, and he was sitting on a telephone wire watching them. And it scared them both. They went back to bed. Didn't talk about it for years, but then when they came back and talked about it. They both had the same story. They also told me Santa was real, so take that story with a grain of salt. What other experiences have I had? Like I said, I grew out of it. I don't see anything crazy like that anymore that I can't explain, which leads me to believe that I'm not schizophrenic. Let's see, shadow figures, full body apparitions, boxes flying off shelves. Yeah, the only thing I ever had fly off the shelf was that cup of water when we were playing Ouija board. Oh, I can talk about some psychedelic stuff now. This is not me endorsing any of this. I could have died if I didn't die. So don't do any of what I'm about to say. But when I was in high school, we used to, I'm not even going to tell you what it is so no one can do it, but we used to huff chemicals that we should not have been huffing. And I'm pretty sure I might have died a couple times because it would always start out with you like floating above the room. So you would see, yeah, it was like you floated up out of your body and you were looking at yourself from above. Like you could see yourself sitting on the couch in the room with everyone else and you were up here. And then I remember one time I kept going for a while and just went up and up and up into the sky. But eventually I felt like I was getting too far away and it was uncomfortable, so I went back to my body. I had a lot of out-of-body experiences as a child that were similar to that were not drug-induced, where I would be like floating up above my body and then I would float further and further away. One time that was drug-induced, I kept floating forever, and eventually I was this purple cloud, and I had no recollection of my life here, and I was trying to get to a star, but I could never get to one, and I was just thinking about what it would be like to get there. Let's see, do you believe in astral projection? Yeah, totally. Because even though that was drug-induced, I do believe that I left my body. All of those times, drug-induced and not. I left my body multiple times as a child. Although I don't know if I actually know what astral projection is, but I'm assuming it's just like you leaving your physical body. And like I said, I believe in reincarnation, so I think your spirit can go wherever you want to when you die, when you're unalived. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for saying that word. Yeah, I need to learn how to sage things because I collect antiques and I'm always worried I'm going to bring... Oh, is it here? I think it's packed away. My friend Philip Ivy gave me a lacy collar and it has a drop of what looks like blood on it. And the day that I brought it home and put it around Benjamin's neck, he's my bunny rabbit that I've had since I was a baby, I saw a girl standing in the hallway and watching me, and it was when I was living with my sister and my ex-best friend. I saw a girl standing in the hallway staring at me, and when I looked up at her, she like ran down the hall. So I got up and followed her, and I was like, what are you doing? And then I realized one of my roommates was not there, and the other one was on the couch in the living room and didn't know what I was talking about. So I think that was like the person who owned the little thing, I guess checking to see who I was or what I was doing, because I never saw her again. I've never felt her again. But I did see her that one day when I put that doily on my Benjamin. I've never tried to sage anything. I always say I'm going to sage things whenever I get creeped out, but I don't actually know how to do that. Let's see. Have you watched any of the near-death experience videos on YouTube? No, I haven't. I'll have to look into those. I'm trying to think. I don't think I've had any near-death experiences myself, unless you count the drug-induced leaving my body, because I was probably pretty close to death there. I'm gonna get so in trouble for this video. Can't say those words, I don't think. Let's see. Are there any other things I can talk to you guys about in that vein? I was like, I can babble about this forever, but I think I might have told you all my stories already. Do you guys have any questions, or do you want to go more in depth about your experiences, Cinderella and Shelley? Because yeah, I think that's everything I can think of off the top of my head. Winnie was live earlier, and it made me think of this. I'm sorry I didn't have more time to prepare. I thought I was going to have time to get home and take a shower and get everything set up before I started filming. One thing about sage that people don't know is for it to work, you have to be gifted in it. You can't buy your own sage. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Yeah, I probably need to have someone cleanse my things because I collect a lot of antiques. Everything's packed away at Nana's house right now, so maybe I need to have someone go cleanse her house. Oh, that's my hubby texting me. Okay, well, I guess I will let you guys go because I think that's all of my paranormal experiences. And I've caught up with the chat. Yeah. So I will let you guys go. I hope you have the best night. Thanks you for coming to see me. Thanks you. And I will see you in my next video if you want to see it. Like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And the next video will not be about paranormal experiences because that was all of the ones that I have had. I love you guys. Have the best night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye. Let's see.